Hello everyone, it is Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. Today we're going to have a look at the archetype that got second place at the Challenge Cup in Tokyo. It also did take the win in seniors and juniors, so Blacephalon certainly is an archetype that have people excited. Let's jump into the basic concept, and it's pretty much Blacephalon can detonate stuff. That is the whole concept of this deck. It is the new beatdown archetype that we're looking for from this set. Naganadel and B-String allow us to flood the board of energy, and then Blacephalon uses those energy, shoves them into the lost zone, and does a huge amount of damage for each one you throw in there. So it is really awesome, and let's jump into the list. So we are going to start off very simply with the Pokemon line. 3 Blacephalon GX, he is the main man here. 180 hit points, is an Ultra Beast, obviously important to note. It has 2 attacks that can require just 1 fire energy, which offers great help in different situations. The Burst Burner is the first one. Your opponent's active is now confused and burned, so that's instantly 20 damage that can push things into range of Startlehead later on for less painful discards, which is really nice. But also, confusing your opponent is actually really frustrating. If you're going second and you're up against another basic GX deck, which try and apply early pressure, like Buzzwoles, other mirror matches, Laprases, random stuff like that. Lots of basic GXs out there right now. Zeraora is another new archetype coming out in this set. If you can confuse them, that can really be frustrating for them trying to attack you early, so it can buy you a good bit of time and force the opponent to at least flip a coin or try and gust around you from very early on in the game, where they want to be using draw supported cards rather than Guzmas to help their own board presence. So this confusion is really annoying for people in many situations. It also has that Burst GX attack, very similar to Kartana GX's one, where instead of taking a prize card, you get to discard a prize card. If it's a energy, you get to attach it to one of your Pokemon as well. So in that high roll circumstance, you get even more energy acceleration, and it's absolutely amazing for you. In other situations, you know, it can put you on 3 prize cards later down the line, which is really good for Naganadel. And it can just win the game in certain points. A lot of the time, you're forced to like gust around for your last prize card in certain situations. But the Burst GX can finish the game in many ways that we've seen the Kartana be used to round out games late on. So yeah, it really is a good GX attack to have. Startlehead is the main threat though. It does for 2 fire, 50 for each fire energy. Or sorry, fire energy that you place into the lost zone from your board. So it doesn't have to be on itself, it can be on anywhere. And that's where this Naganadel comes in with a really thick line. 4-3, using Charge Up. Once during your turn, you may attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to this Pokemon. We're going to use a bunch of Acro Bikes, Ultra Balls, Mysterious Treasures, Heat Factory Prism Star, Sightseers, all that good stuff to chuck energy in the bin throughout the game. Naganadel will use Charge Up, and then we'll use those energies on the Naganadel most of the time to shove them into the lost zone for big knockouts with Blacephalon. That is pretty much the idea. Such a cheap attack cost for such potentially high damage output is very, very scary and makes this deck very awkward to deal with. That is why it's so strong. On top of that, we're going to play 2 copies of Tapu Lele just for extra consistency. I've already mentioned that we play Treasures because it combines nicely with Naganadel, so we have good search for this 2 copy. A quick note on the Poipole Eye Opener can be really nice. If you're playing this deck, you're probably going to want a notepad, because if ever you have the option to use Eye Opener, you get to look at your prizes and you don't have to shuffle afterwards, so you can simply note down the positioning of your prizes and take them as you like. It could even work with Burst GX even, so that's pretty cool. And another note on the Naganadel, it can also attack with Turning Poison, 80 plus 80 if you have 3 prize cards. So that's very dangerous. It may seem expensive, but if we're binning energies every turn and charging up to ourselves, it can be quite easy to reach. We do play Choice Bands and we play Beast Energy, so that Turning Poison can get 1-hit knockouts as well. Very important to note. Onto the items, 1 copy of Rescue Stretcher, then we have 6 Ball Search Outs, 2 treasures can find everything but Blacephalon, Ultra Ball gets everything, 3 copies of Acro Bike for some additional cycle, 4 copies of B-String, such an integral card when we are fully reliant on as many energies on the board as we can get really, 2 copies of Choice Band for additional damage, Heat Factory Prism Star, really excellent card, synergizes amazingly well with this deck. You get to discard a fire from hand and you can draw 3 cards, which is really good for helping us get further into the deck, whilst synergizing with your Naganadel straight away as well. It also can't be removed by Faber or Field Blower. It has to be other stadium cards or via attacks. Then you have 2 copies of Ultra Space as well. Additional search for Blacephalon as well as Naganadel. So this is going to help us contest the stadium even more and help us be consistent throughout the game by getting pseudo draws here and there, because unlike something like Brooklet Hill, Ultra Space can go to the hand, so we're instantly thinning from the deck, which is absolutely awesome for us. Really, really good stadium to take advantage of there. Onto the supporter cards, we're going to play 1 copy of Lillie. Obviously, we do have a lot of insta-play cards, so you hopefully can draw a lot. We're also playing 1 copy of Kiawe. This can be an extra way of getting a lot of acceleration, and in those circumstances where you do get 1 or 2 Poipoles down, you may just want to slam Kiawe and hope that your hand is already good enough with other supporter cards that you can continue with your turn, next turn. So it really does put a lot of pressure on the opponent. If you just go Kiawe on 1, they know that whatever they have active is going to be knocked out, because, you know, Startlehead doing 200 turn 2 is super scary, and it could be even higher. It could go to 250 if you just have a manual attachment. And if you have Naganadels on top of that, it could be any amount of damage that you want if you use Kiawe, basically. So it's really, really threatening. 3 copies of Cynthia for some nice shuffle draw. Sightseer is the star of the show, though, with that 4 count. As I said, we just need discard in this deck. Because the Fire Energy don't get discarded, they go to the loss zone, we need to keep replenishing our discard pile with Fire Energies. So Sightseer really going to be important here. You get to draw until you have 5 in hand, but before you draw, you discard as many cards as you like from that hand. So typically you're just going to try and hold on to things like B-Strings, Guzmas, stuff like that. Everything else you can just start thinning, get rid of all those cards, especially those Fire Energies, to start combining with Naganadel. And then 4 copies of Guzma, going to be nice for picking off the things that we want to, because of course we are a big 1-hit KO deck, so hunting down those GXs is going to be very important. And onto the energy, we do play a bunch. 1 Beast Energy, so nice for math fixing and just being even more threatening. And 15 copies of Fire Energy. It's similar to like old Volk builds where you wanted to have them all the time because you just wanted to use Steam up a bunch. In this case, we want to have them in the hand so we can bin them, so we can Naganadel them, so that we can use them with Blacephalon. It's a constant cycle. You want to have plenty in the deck as well throughout the game, so you can use B-Strings. It's all going to be important in the deck and discard and hand. You want it all over the place, really. So having 15 copies is going to help us make that a reality. So let's have an overview of the list in total. Really simple on the Pokemon line. We're just saying that Blacephalon and Naganadel are good enough to deal with anything. Lots of energy cards going to be vital for us, and from there just a very simple draw engine with some nice supporters in there as well. Onto tech options, a Let Loose Marshadow could be considered because we are already playing 6 outs to finding it, so you can disrupt your opponent in the early turns if you really want to, giving yourself potentially like pseudo extra draw in the at the same time, because we're not playing any draw in this deck. We're not even playing a Rangaroo, which is also on this slide that you could use if you really wanted to. Daka GX is an interesting one. That Ultra Ball reducing 10 damage. You may want to play just 1 as a tech option. If 180 is a number that a lot of decks can hit, pushing yourself to 190 could really improve those matchups. Think about Zoroark decks, which try and go Choice Band, Kukui, Devoured Field against Rayquazas. If you play 1 stack attacker, that's not going to be possible for them. So in certain circumstances, pushing yourself to 190 is going to be a big deal. So playing 1 stacker might be worthwhile. 1 copy of Turtonator GX or something like Ho-Oh GX, or any other like big fire type that can just hit 120. It's going to be really important for you if you want to beat Sceptile matchups. Right now, I have no answer to Sceptile other than just trying to gust around the targets that don't have grass energies on them, because they do have that non-GX Sceptile which can stop Ultra Beast from damaging them. So really, if you want to beat that matchup, you can tech in extra Fire GX Pokemon. Seeing as that we have Kiawe anyway, it's not that bad if we just go onto a Ho-Oh early or whatever. I put Turtonator on the slide, but it could honestly be anything. Nitro Tank's a cool option for you, I guess. That was kind of my thinking here. Just like if you happen to lead the Turtonator, it's probably better for you than leading a Ho-Oh, because you can just go for early Nitro Tank. But it's obviously less synergistic because Bright Flame removes energy from itself. It would only ever be a one-off to try and tech against Sceptile, but I don't feel like we necessarily need to, because if we can deal with 1 Sceptile before the baby comes out and then start dealing with like Lele's and other stuff on their board, we should still be able to win in many situations. And finally, the Lucamine Prism Star is an option that you could be playing in here. You can only play this if your opponent has exactly 3 prize cards, but during your opponent's next turn, all damage done by your opponent's attacks is prevented, so they can't target any of your Ultra Beasts. It would literally be them gusting up Lele's, if anything. There'll be situations where we don't have anything but Ultra Beasts on the board, so if you can get Lucamine on the right turn, it's going to be absolutely devastating. The only issue I see, again, is that we don't have any draw in the deck, outside of, like, item draw in our stadium. So I feel like having Lucamine at the right time would be really clutch, but wouldn't be all that often, so that's why it's not made the cut in this list. Overall, on matchups, I think you're a little bit worried about Lapras Quagsire, simply because you are weak to water, and they have a good amount of non-GX attackers. The Volk Prism Star, the Quagsire, even things like Kyogre and stuff sneaking into the list, so those are going to be really awkward. Similarly, Empoleon Swampert, you're having to commit so many energy to discard on these guys because they have that really annoying 160 hit points, whilst at the same time they hit for weakness on you. Sceptile GX, I said, is currently bad, but literally a one-card tech can make that a very good matchup for you. Lost March, I think, is pretty awkward because they are non-GX. They have the luxury of time against you to build their board into one-hit KO range. Gramble, also going to be a little awkward for you. Again, all non-GX. If they can build their board correctly, they'll start swinging and just out-trade you. Alolan Exeggutor, very similar to Sceptile GX, but will be even more awkward for you to deal with as long as they get set up. Obviously, they're a much clunkier engine, but if they get going, that's going to be really awkward. They'll have a lot of non-GXs on the board that we can't deal with, and they'll still play a Sceptile to wall you out, which is going to be a big problem. On to my closing thoughts. Really, the strategy is so straightforward and will happen so often because the engine that we've got. Blacephalon is clearly going to be a very good deck. I think it just becomes the most consistent one-hit KO deck that we have in the format. And whenever that's the case, it just gets launched into Tier 1 because it beats every other one-hit KO deck, pretty much. At least other GX ones. Like, for example, Pre-Lost Thunder, something like Vika Ray is, like, currently, alongside Buzzrock, I guess, the most consistent one-hit KO deck. And Blacephalon just sort of takes that mantle now because it's, you know, basics in stage 1s rather than basics in stage 2s. And we have Beast Ring as well, which is absolutely absurd. So it just becomes the best O-Hit KO variant, and that just is going to make it a really big deal. Naganadel is a great non-GX attacker, also improves like matchups against Shrine decks, and improves your matchup against Buzzwole as well, because you can have a big one-hit KO option in a non-GX form, so it's going to be really awkward for them to deal with. And as I said down below, Sceptile can simply be a bad matchup flipped into a good matchup if you want to commit the one space. I personally haven't right now because I always like showing off a basic early standpoint for this deck, but if you are seeing a lot of Sceptile or if you're worried about it, it's quite easy to make space for an extra fire Pokemon. It's not going to be too hard. You can cut a supporter card, you can cut an Acro Bike, you can cut like one Ultra Space, something like that. Wouldn't be too painful. I don't think I'd ever go down a Beast Ring, but that could be something that you could also explore. But yeah, fitting in one Pokemon isn't going to really hurt the deck too much. I think the only thing I'd say is definitely don't cut down for my energy count. My energy count is already on the low end, and I could honestly see it being more staple to play 16 basic fire than 15, because they are just so important. It's ridiculous that a deck needs to play that many, but it honestly really does. It's similar to like old Turbo Dark, where you just wanted to have Dark Energies upon Dark Energies for elixirs and dark patches and all sorts of that stuff. So yeah, it's going to be really good. I think this archetype's great. Let me know what you guys think about it down below. Are you going to start clowning around with this guy, or are you going to be playing other stuff to try and beat it? How do you beat a deck like this, other than the decks I've already discussed in terms of bad matchups? How can Blacephalon improve on those matchups? I'd love to hear it all down below. For now though, has been Joe from OmniPoke, and I'll see you guys next time.